I wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Christina Hibbard. You said I need to shave my beard. Well, I don't know if you're like a Joe Biden doctor or whatever. You know, I don't know where you're getting off telling me that that's got anything to do with anything because my doctor told me not to shave over the skin cancer. So I was told not to shave. And if I shave, then I have to leave patches of beard that I can't go over. That would look kind of dumb, wouldn't it? That would look worse. So, and as far as your other comment that I should apply for this, that, and the other, uh, I had $294 of my benefits taken away. It's been about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And the lady, first of all, didn't tell the truth because she said that they had interviewed me on July 7th of that year, and that was false. And they just wrote in whatever they wanted and took the benefits away. When I called them, they admitted to that they hadn't actually talked to me. I think the person that did it to me was the person I was actually talking to on the phone, because she had all sorts of excuses for this, that, and the other. And I told her, I said, well, if you're the government and the other person that you said I didn't need these benefits, that bad, and you work for the government and the person lied in saying that they interviewed me when they didn't, I'm sure there are other people that they've done this to. So why wouldn't you check into what I'm telling you, that the person said that they had interviewed me and they didn't? Asking me how much my rent was and all of this other stuff. So it was about 2 years ago. My benefits went down $294, and the lady on the phone said, we got to spread things around. She's alluding to the people coming into the country, that people like myself who have been a citizen and worked for over 50 years. I mean, I went into the workforce when I was 14 years old, full time, and never missed any employment. So I was homeless from time to time, but I still worked. But the lady said it, they got to take from some in order to spread things around to people coming into the country who are going to need free phones and plane tickets and bus tickets and housing and health care and all this other stuff, So she didn't want to hear it, doctor. So I like when people like you make a comment about my channel. You haven't watched my channel. I don't know you from Adam. And, obviously you haven't watched any of my other videos that explain all this stuff. And you hop on there with your keyboard tapping away your opinion about everything. So, like you God Almighty or something, like you automatically know, who's on the good list, who's on the bad list. And it just amazes me. It amazes me. So I'm going to say you're probably like the Jill Biden type of doctor. You know, I'd be really surprised if you're an MD or anything like that, but you didn't do your homework and you have opinion about me and all that other stuff. And you said I need to come up on my hygiene. I wash every day as best a man that's bedbound and wheelchair bound. I have to sits bathe, and partially I have to bathe in the wheelchair, and then I have to put a pad on the bed and bathe in bed, and then throw that pad away in order to reach everything. So maybe God will bless you with the period of being in a wheelchair so you be a little bit more understanding about what I'm going through, you know. So, but it never ceases to amaze me. It never ceases to amaze me, you know. And you sound pretty cut and dry. You don't sound like the kindest individual on the planet. But I'm not going to worry about it. And I was kind to the person who did this to me, who snuck up behind me at 12:30 at night like a coward and punched me in the spine because he said he didn't like gringos. And he said that my look had triggered him. So that was his excuse to go up to a totally innocent person and spoil their life. And I've forgiven him. I prayed for him. I was merciful. I didn't call the cops because they would have deported him. And I know that he had a wife and a kid, you know. But in any case, like I said, people like you watch a little bit of a video, make a judgment. So, no, I'm not going to shave off my beard to suit you. And hopefully it'll just make you so upset that you won't be able to sleep tonight. How about that? But in any case, I got my regulars, and they understand the word of God that a soldier is worthy of his hire. And I've been a good soldier. I have days now where I don't turn on any media other than to hey Wayne, howdy back to the UK. My mother always went around the house singing Hail Britannia and all that. And it was odd. She always drove a British car. She drove a little Ford Prefect, little sandwich box car. And then this amazingly cute Triumph Herald 1200 convertible, which was adorable, 1962. And my father drove a sports car that had almost 400 horsepower, and my mother's car was 48 horsepower. 48 horsepower. I think the Triumph Herald was designed by somebody from Gia, but it was an adorable car, and my niece named it Herbie. And so we would go to the beach, and my father would overdrive the highway, and he would zip in between a couple of gas tankers or gasoline trucks or tractor trailers. And his car was named Princess. And I didn't like Princess. The car didn't like me. I went to wash it one time and it almost cut my fingers off. And my father smoked. The whole car smoked. And so you rode to the beach in a car full of people smoking. And the windows looked like they were tinted. There was so much smoke coming from my father's car. So I rode in the convertible, and he thought it was funny as smack to almost get my mother KILLED'd on the highway trying to keep up with them. I'm like, Mom, you know where we're going. We're going to Rehoboth Beach, you know. Been there a dozen times, you know. Even if you get separated from Dad, you know, we'll catch up with him later. But man, she beat that little Triumph to death trying to keep up with that 400 horsepower Ambassador Diplomat. $7,400 back in 1967 would be like spending 60 or 70 now. Worst argument my parents ever had. And it was to keep up with old man Marriott, who bought a Ford Pantera. And my father bought this really sleek Ambassador Diplomat in this beautiful metallic burgundy with the black vinyl roof and aluminum skirt and knockoff wire wheels and two 4-barrel carburetors sitting on top of an American V8 engine with air conditioning. And yeah, my father used to go up the street with the brake lights going on every few minutes. And he had a bad habit of turning around inside the intersection instead of going around the block to work. So he did a U-turn inside the intersection, and this great big 67 Pontiac Bonneville came over the hill and nailed Princess and cut it in two. So that was the end of Princess. And then he bought a AMC Gremlin, which was a very cute car. And they had the flood of Washington that year. And my father drove through 2.5 feet of water. 2.5 feet of water in that Gremlin. It looked like we were one of those car boats, you know, driving through Kenwood in this Gremlin. And he named it Geraldine after Laughing. You know, the devil made me do it, Flip Wilson. The devil made me do it. So that was a cute car. Little half a car. But yeah, I remember the Triumph Herald. I had a blue one and a red one. My mother had a white one. And I couldn't get all three of them fixed up. So the red one I was working on in the garage, and I mistimed the engine. And when I went to start it up, it set the garage on fire. But I was smart. I always had a big old fire extinguisher a couple inches away from the cars that I worked on. So I put the fire out and told my parents I'd come back and take care of it. When I left for work, they took care of it. They had the car towed off and junked so that I couldn't work on it anymore. But they didn't understand. I just put the distributor in 180 degrees backwards, and when the gas went in and the spark hit it, it opened up, you know, through the carburetor and set everything on fire. A lot of mechanics make that mistake. So, and I was young. I was young, but you know. But my mother always fancied herself the Queen Mum, and the other song she sang was "There'll Always Be in England." Now my father had the mean German vibe going on. Oh Wayne, I'm 70 years old. I haven't touched a car. My last new car was a 2004 Chevy Cavalier that Fox Chevy in Laurel cheated me on. And it was very clever how they did it. They took two buyer's orders and they stacked them on top of each other so that when I signed the paperwork, it had the cheaper price on top and the more expensive price on the bottom. They told me to sign every sheet and not use the carbon. Very clever of them. So I went to a lawyer, and the lawyer said nothing you can do about it. You signed all the sheets. I thought I was signing a carbon copy. Hey, Nikki, how are you? So very clever. And what I learned from that was, no, my toes are very well kept, Nikki. I can reach over in my wheelchair and tend to my toes. I don't look 70 because I have the mind of a 20-year-old. I don't ever talk about myself being old, you know, like Watchman Tom does. He says that he's old because he's 60. For one thing, he just cranked out a kid. He's 60. He's got a 2-year-old kid. And the other thing, he's always saying he's old. I'd love to be 60 again. You know, I was still doing the do when I was 60. So I got all my teeth, by the way, Nikki. I got all my teeth. I don't have the old people bad breath. I floss. I gargle with hydrogen peroxide, which will kill anything. It'll kill any germ or virus or anything. Yes, Jesus is Lord. So I'm in Maryland. So, Nikki, let me ask you something. Why would you ask me a dumb question like, do I have toe cheese? And now you're saying Jesus is Lord. You're witnessing for Jesus, but you just asked me if I got long toenails and toe cheese. Does that, not being rude or anything, but does that make any sense at all to you? Do you not understand the word of God says that we will be judged? Okay, so you trolled me. You got me. Ha ha, hilarious. You're either a very immature person or you're a kid. But God says in his word that we will be held accountable for every word that we speak during our lives. So I love you all. That's why I put up with the crap from some of you. I'm not going to ban him. He thinks he's giggity, on his keyboard, So people all giggity. And there was a guy when I lived in Montgomery Village, Maryland, there was a guy putting this crap on telephones. And for 2 or 3 months, I said, Lord, I'd really like to bump into that joker and see what he's all about. So I went to go into the Giant. It's a Banana Republic. You don't understand. You don't understand the Banana Republic. I go live about every other day. A Banana Republic is what we have now, where instead of having an honest vote, you have one guy takes charge of everything, and then he sends the other guy off to jail. That's pretty much what a Banana Republic is. If any of you, if any of you, if any of you think that this election is going to be honest and it's going to change anything, you're wasting your time. So I've been watching you since before. I sent you many things on Amazon from your list. Yeah, I still have my Amazon list. I need baby wipes, you know. I use a lot of baby wipes. So I got them on my list. And Dr. What's her name trolled me and said, well, I ought to apply to the government for my baby wipes and get some help and all of this. You know, somebody who's a doctor, probably very well off, and is going to give me that advice instead of clicking on my Amazon link and helping me out with $3 worth of baby wipes. Reminds me of my sister, who's a preacher, and I love her, and she means well and all that other stuff. But they had me over at their house. And have you ever seen Eddie Murphy do that look toward the camera, like, you know, where he's doing a movie and then he looks right at you in the camera? I was having dinner at my sister and brother-in-law's 5,000 square foot mini mansion. I was homeless at the time, living in the shop of a Dodge dealership, and the shop foreman was letting me camp out. And my brother and sister-in-law had invited me over for dinner, and to give me this homeless people blanket that was 40 inches by 60 inches. And if you pull it up here, your feet are cold. If you pull it down to your feet, then you got no blanket up here. So in any case, and like I said, they have a 1,500 square foot basement, you know, that I could have stayed a little while until I got back on my feet. And my sister said I was going to be her sound man for her international ministry and all this other blah, blah. But in any case, they sent me packing with this little homeless people blanket. But before that, we had dinner. And long story short was she drove into town. The story she's telling me about, she drove into town and she gets out of a brand new SUV wearing a brand new fur coat, you know, holidays and all. Now, I believe what she said because I know my brother-in-law, and I know she probably didn't have a dime to her name other than what my brother-in-law buys her. And I know even as millionaires, they don't eat out unless they have a coupon for something. So, and everything they have is well-deserved. I'm not saying that, but she steps out of a brand new SUV downtown, and this homeless guy comes up to her and asks her for $1. And she steps back and points at him and goes, silver and gold have I none, but in the name of Jesus, be healed and be warm and be well. And she walks off. Well, the guy probably crapped his pants like Joe Biden. He probably crapped his pants and wanted to get away from her as quick as he could. But she got the spirit, and she told him, be well and be healed and be rich and be warm and all this other stuff. Lord bless you, you know. And she's telling me this at the dinner table. And my little voice is going, Will, don't laugh. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. And, you know, stuff like that is what makes Christians look flaky to the rest of the world. You know, rather than just say, I don't have $1, I don't have cash, or I'm not allowed to talk to homeless people or whatever. You know, she does this thing, be warm, be well, be rich, have a new home, and all this other stuff. And I love her, like I said, and I was there chewing my tongue, trying not to laugh. And the other thing she told me about, they went to this meeting, and I love God. Don't get me wrong. I love the Lord. I love the Lord, but the flaky stuff, other people can have all of that, blowing on people and knocking them down and all that other Benny Hinn stuff. So she goes to a meeting like that, and they're all at the meeting, and they look on their arm and stuff, and there's gold, and they're like, the gold fell, the gold from heaven fell. I didn't have the heart to tell her that when you go to those meetings like that, they fill the air conditioning system up with gold glitter, with that cheap dime store glitter. And then when everyone's on the floor, you know, acting like they're out of their mind, plabber, jabber, jibby jabber, all of that, they flick the switch and the air conditioning blows the gold glitter down on the crowd. And they're like, look, the gold, the gold. Well, God's word said an evil and perverse generation seeks a sign. So you're supposed to have an inherent knowledge and love for God without having to have gold glitter blown on you by Benny Hinn and his crowd. So I forget what it was. Oh, the other two stories are good. My nephew, one thing I can't tell you, it's funny as smack, but I know how people are, and some of you wouldn't be able to take it, and you know, yeah, I may think of a way that I can tell you the story because it's really funny. But the other thing with my nephew was driving down 108 in Brookville, Maryland, which is a very windy country road coming out of the city going to another city. So it was 12:30 in the morning, and this road is just a very windy country road, very dangerous in and of itself. And he's driving along in his Subaru Brat or whatever the thing was. And the motorcycle gets behind him. And the motorcycle's got his high beam on. And you know how the light jiggles? And so my nephew got irritated and decided to brake check the motorcycle. And the motorcycle guy wasn't ready. And he went right through the back window of my nephew's SUV. Right through the back window. It was one of those SUVs with the tire on the back and all of that stuff. So the tire probably saved the motorcycle guy's life. And so when the cops asked my nephew what happened, my nephew said that he saw a skunk on the side of the road 500 yards. Now, this is 12:30 at night in the dark, 500 yards on the curve of a road. And he stopped so that he didn't run over this skunk. And he didn't know the motorcycle guy was right behind him. And the motorcycle guy winds up going through the back window of his SUV. And have you ever had one of those conversations like you're looking at the other person, you're like, I know what you're telling me is a bunch of crap. And the other person looks back at you and they're like, yeah, I'm telling you a bunch of crap, but you're not going to dare say anything. I was in line years ago when I was homeless, and I had gotten a little bit of food stamp money, and I was in line at the store, and this lady looked at me like, white guy using food stamps, huh, like that. And I looked back at her like, huh, yourself. We were having this eye conversation without saying anything. She looked at me like, huh, who do you think you are? You know, cheating the system and all that. So I was living in South Baltimore, working for a Dodge dealership when Barack Obama closed all the dealerships down to save the American auto industry, and he did save it. Bush was going to let the American auto industry go right into the gutter, and Barry saved the auto industry by consolidating everything. So my dealership lost its license to sell Dodge. The Jeep dealership down the street lost their Jeep license. And then Fred Frederick Motors bought up the other two licenses, and it cost them a boatload of money. They had to buy the license, the dealer license. Then they had to build a 2-story grand foyer for customers to come into, because my dealership was one of those old gas stations converted to a car dealership, you know, and Chrysler didn't want those. It made the company look bad. You know, this old converted gas station turned into a car dealership. So my boss, they didn't tell me that they had lost the license. So I noticed that we were getting fewer and fewer cars on the lot. So in order to survive, I took over the janitorial functions of the company and the lot boy functions. And man, I shined those cars up like a new penny and put pinstriping on them, anything that would help to sell a used car honestly. And I made sure they were nice. And we did not cheat anybody. It was a marvelous dealership to work for. A young couple bought a Jeep, and they were lazy in the wintertime. They didn't scrape the window. So they tried to put the electric window down while it was frozen, and they tore the motor right out of the door, you know, brought the car back, and my boss fixed it for free. But on my dime, I lost some money out of the deal because of that. But in any case, my boss gets into his Dodge Avenger, and he drives over to Fred Frederick to spy on them. And there's a alleyway next to the other dealership, and he drives up the alleyway, and he's, you know, looking over their dealership, counting cars and fuming to himself that he should have had it and all that. And so old man Frederick's son gets in a great big old Chrysler 300 and drives down to the nose of my boss's car in the alley and essentially, you know, toots the horn and makes my boss have to back out onto the very dangerous highway. Now, if it were me, I'd have sat there and he would have had to drive through the back seat in the bumper before he pushed me out on the highway. But my boss comes into the dealership and he's sobbing. I was used to it. I was like, what's wrong now? I went over to Fred Frederick and he pushed my car out in the highway. I said, you went over to Fred Frederick and he pushed your car out onto the highway. Then I said, no, you went over to Fred Frederick to spy on his dealership and you went up the little side alley and they told you to get off the property. They took a car and pushed my car. I said, they didn't push your car. I looked at the Avenger, not a scrape on it. I said, they just went nose to nose with your car and made you back down. They were playing chicken with you. Haven't you ever played chicken? Like that. So a grown man blubbering because, you know, the other guy got the drop on him and made him back down onto the highway. It was just exceptional. It was exceptional. And my boss had Tourette's. He had Tourette's. And whenever he got upset, he did this chicken dance. He would get up and he would do this chicken dance. I've seen young kids do it, you know, when I worked at the nursing home and all of that. I've seen autistic kids do it, but never a 45-year-old grown man, you know. And he didn't like me. I worked very hard. I was hired by the general manager, not by him. He didn't like me. I worked very hard. You know, I worked very hard for the dealership. I did a good job. I was a good fiduciary, which means that I was honest for the customer. I was honest for the dealership the whole way around. Never had to cheat anybody. Had a lot of good times. I bought a red carpet from the carpet store up the street. And when I would sell a car, I would roll out the red carpet to the door for the customer to walk the red carpet for their car purchase. And then somebody stole my carpet. You know, people get jealous. People get jealous and they do dumb stuff. Like I sold a very nice Mustang to this lady and the trunk light stayed on and ran the battery down. So I asked the shop, I put in a repair ticket for the shop to fix the trunk light. And what the hillbilly in the shop did, he reached in the trunk since it was my car deal, and he yanked the whole assembly out with just this no bulb and the assembly and the wire hanging down in the trunk. So foolishly, I didn't check behind the guy to see if he had done the job right. It didn't occur to the guy that by hurting me, he was hurting the dealership and his job. So naturally, the lady went over the car with a fine-tooth comb, and she said, I want the trunk light fixed. I want new disc brakes on the car. I mean, she went over that car and demanded everything be put on the car before she picked it up. And when you're buying a used car, you're paying for what's left of the serviceability of the car. So I hadn't cheated the lady, but we went ahead and put new top hats on the car and brakes and all that other stuff. And again, I paid for it. So I was just literally working and starving. And I sold this very nice Dodge Avenger to a 90-year-old lawyer, very nice man, and senile as all get out. So I said, well, I'll sell him the car that automatically starts when you get close to it with the key. That'll be easy for the old guy. So his son bought him the car, and he wanted a smaller car. I said, no, I'm going to sell you this nice Avenger. You're a lawyer. You need the Avenger. I sold him the Avenger so that ultimately when he wrecked it, he would survive the accident. So we're on the test drive in the evening, and he says, Will, do you want me to drive between those two motorcycles? And I said, Mr. So-and-so, them ain't two motorcycles, that's a truck. And if you drive between those two headlights, we gonna be dead. I said, don't drive between the two headlights. Whew. So I sold him the Avenger that automatically started and all that other stuff. It was the first time this happened to me, that his behavior with the car was so inconsistent that the computer got suspicious that the car had been stolen and shut everything down. So they came to me and they said, what's wrong with this car you sold him? I said, nothing's wrong with it. Hey, Misha, how are you all doing? And fam, I love Russia. I love Russia. This thing that's happening between all the countries has nothing to do with the small guy. All of us regular citizens want to live our lives, and we want to get along. We don't want to nuke each other and all that other stuff. Hey, Laurie, Nova Scotia, Canada. So, I got this funny story about Canada. A lady told me she wanted to go take me to a business meeting. And so it turned out it was an Amway meeting. And you know, they don't tell you what it's about, right? So in any case, we go to this Amway meeting. I think it was like South Carolina or something like that at the time. We took two cars, a Honda Prelude and a Hyundai Accent. So, oh no, it was a Honda Accord. That's the important part of the story. So we drive down to South Carolina, and the lady in the Honda is pushing it 80 miles an hour going down to South Carolina. Well, the Hyundai couldn't keep up. Hyundais don't have any sleeves in the block of their motor. And so the motor blew up, and the car just went up in a ball of flame. And they pulled over, and me being me, I had a fire extinguisher on me. I don't know why I always took a emergency kit with me, fire extinguisher and medical kit. I used them both on the trip. And so just like it's no big deal, I go up to the Hyundai and I pop the hood a little bit. I take the fire extinguisher and I go all around the motor without raising the hood, you trolls. Now, I didn't raise the hood up. I popped it up an inch, and then I stuck the nozzle through and I went all over the motor and I put the fire out, you know. But in any case, the tension for what happened made my back go out. So the Hyundai is a dead soldier at the side of the road. And we packed both cars of people into the Honda. We were like the apostles traveling in one accord, so to speak. So we get down to South Carolina, and there's some time before the secret meeting. So we got some time. I decide to take a bath, and I get in the bathtub and my back locks up, and I've turned the hot water on in the bathtub to cook my back and make it unlock, and I could not get to the hot water tap to turn it off. And so I'm lying in the bathtub naked as a jaybird, and I can't get to the hot water thing to turn it off. So I'm trying to turn it off with my foot. And I said, oh my God, they're going to find me. They're going to find me in a hotel naked, cooked like a lobster on my way to an Amway meeting. So we go to the meeting. I decided to have some fun with the lady. We go to the secret meeting, and there are thousands of people in this stadium. And I stand up and look down at the lady. I said, is this Amway? You didn't tell me it was Amway. And they start laughing because everybody there had somebody on the hook. And the guy, I forget his name. He's one of the big Amway guys. He's from Canada. And he decides to sing Canada, My Canada, but he can't remember the words. And it was hysterical, you know. That's all I remember, standing up, and I yell at the lady, is this Amway? You didn't tell me it was Amway. And the guy forgetting the words to Canada, My Canada. And I loved my Amway lady, by the way. I loved her. My family hated her. And the thing with Amway, they're like, if your family doesn't support you, then ditch them and find somebody who will. So, hey, how you doing? Is it Rachi? Rachi Shenlock? How do you say that? Rachi? I've never heard that name before. Well, you don't know what I'm talking about because you came in on the middle. You came in on the middle of the story. My great Amway adventure. And don't get me wrong, my thing with Amway was to sell the Amway gifts. It's a catalog. Oh, Rachel. Amway has this prepaid catalog. It's a brilliant idea where you send somebody a card and it's prepaid, and it gives them their choice of 6 gifts. It's called AMA gifts, or it used to be called AMA gifts. And that's what I was interested in, was the AMA gift program. But anytime you said Amway, people just automatically like ran for the hills, you know. And it became a problem with my family. So I gave it up. And I bought some of the AMA gifts. They were marvelous. Wonderful to send somebody a card, and it has these nice things on it, and then they find out that it's already paid for. But and the worst thing that happened with my AMA gift thing was my sister bought a dresser from the AMA gift program, and when FedEx or whoever delivered it, they dropped it off the back of the truck and shattered it. And for my sister, that was all it took. Was I would hear, no, she didn't want the dresser to go back. She would just glue it back together and use it broken. And, you know, it was always this dresser that had a a broken bottom, and I heard about that for the next 10 years. So, never do business with family. Never do business with family. I sold a friend a Dodge Avenger, and I told him, I said, look, Tom, you got a big car with a little 4-cylinder engine dragging this huge car around. You got to be religious changing the oil and keeping up the mate. Oh, I know. So I sold the guy the car, and I gave him free brakes and oil changes at my own. Oh, that's so clever. How long did it take you to think that up? Rodolfo Estrogen. That's so clever. Everybody clap for Rodolfo. Rodolfo needs attention. So I'm old enough to know not to do things in bad taste to other people, Rodolfo. I'm not mad. You're so old. If you want to be a jackass, let me get Pedro. Pedro, come here and talk to Rodolfo. Hey, Rodolfo. From one jackass to another. How you doing, Rodolfo? Maybe Rodolfo doesn't understand. Here. Hi, Rodolfo. What you doing, Rodolfo? Oh, Pedro, that's not nice, man. Come on, don't be that way to Rodolfo. I'm sorry, Pop-Up. I'm sorry, Rodolfo. No, you don't have to say anything to Rodolfo. Rodolfo's upset because he thinks we're making fun of him, Pedro. So, Pedro, Rodolfo's going to subscribe. Thank you, Lord. I'm saved. I got another sub. Rodolfo is going to... You made my day, Rodolfo. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rodolfo. You know I'm just yanking you, right, man? We good? We all right? Okay. Daddy, I need to go lie down. Okay, Pedro. You go lie down. Go hit the hay. Go eat some hay and then eat the hay. And hit the hay. So, Rodolfo, I found the reason I've lived a long life is after my child was mushed into the ground by our own car when I was 17. I learned not to destroy myself over things that I couldn't do anything about. I know that I'll see my little child up in heaven. And someday I'll be in heaven and Timmy will run up to me, Daddy. But yeah, everything happens for a reason. And I was over at my parents when my girlfriend called and said that she had run over our son. Not one time, she ran him over twice. Because she pulled the car up where my boy was playing in the dirt, left the car running, and Rodolfo, you don't know about my channel. I've been here for 6 years this way. I've been here for 6 years. Most people couldn't psychologically handle that. But I was 17 and my girlfriend parked our station wagon in front of my little boy, left it running, and the little brats in the back seat pulled the car into drive and ran him over. My girlfriend didn't realize the car was sitting there running over top of our boy. So she put the car in reverse and ran him over a second time. Called me at my parents, and I fell to the floor. I felt, now you're a jackass. I'm going to, I am going to ban. Bye bye. Yeah, you get the 24-hour timeout. You know, if you're going to make a perverted comment, I can handle up to smart aleck. But if you're gonna get perverted, then it's bye-bye time. But I was over at my parents' house when Ann called me and said she'd run over our boy, and I crumbled to the floor like dirty laundry. My parents never rubbed my back and said, gee, that's too bad. You know, maybe it's not a good idea for you to drive. You should go upstairs to your old room and lie down till tomorrow or something. Nothing. I got in the car and drove. I never could look at her after that for some reason. And we never got, I don't know what you mean by did I get oiled up? No. If you're saying did I get drunk, that my little kid got run over by our own car, no. I just never could look at Ann after that. We never got married. But I'll see Timmy in heaven. I'll see him in heaven. But I love God. I love God. When hard times happen, you have a tendency to ask God where he was and all. God's not responsible for the evil in this world. The alarm's telling me to check my that was my alarm saying to check my medicine. You know what gets me, fam, is a lot of you are very loving. A lot of you are very loving, and I consider you what's called my newfound family. I do. You all love on me and I love you back, but a few of you are just stone ass scary. And I'll tell you, I'm going to pray for you because some of the stuff that comes to your mind, you got to be really twisted. You got to be really twisted to ask some of the stuff that you all ask, you know? But in any case, it kind of spoiled the moment. I was on a roll and everything, and we kind of hit a dead end. And I'm going to go because I got to check. Rudolfo, that's a no. I said I've been like this for 6 years. 6 years, Rodolfo. Listen, it went from being a thing to being a thing. You know what I mean? So I'm going to bail because we were like having a family moment and keeping each other company and all that other great stuff. And then it kind of spiraled down with a couple of you. But like I said, I'm going to pray for you because I would be scared. I'd be worried about my soul's salvation if my mind worked the way some of you all do. And when you do stuff like that, that's called being a devil's advocate. And like my blue-haired old mother would say, do the devil's work, get the devil's paycheck someday. So I love y'all. I'm outie. See y'all later. Bye-bye, Mike.